Baker. Welcome to our show. Well, we are back on Zoom, and you know what? It's worked for most of the past year, so I guess we're just going to have it work now again. And I am so pleased to have a guest that some of you may recognize as Casey Daniels, even no matter what name is showing up on the screen, because this is one of our local area's most prolific mystery writers. And she goes by so many names. So we know her primarily as Casey Daniels when she's been on the show before, but today she is with us as Mimi Granger and as Lucy Ness and as Kylie Logan, because she is simply all over with mystery in a number of different names. But the big news is that this month, her newest series, the first book in her newest series, releases, and that is under the name Mimi Granger. And this one, I just finished reading it, thoroughly enjoyed it, and my gosh, there's so much to talk about. So Casey, Mimi, Lucy, Kylie, whoever you are today, welcome. So glad to have you with us.
I'm all those people today. I'm all those people every day.
I don't know how you keep yourself together, I guess.
I'm not sure either, honestly.
Well, it's great to have you with us. And let's talk about this new book. I'm so glad that we have a new book this month. And tell us a little bit about how you came to write it. Well, wait, we haven't told them who it is yet. This is Death of a Red Hot Rancher.
Yeah.
But it's not out west anywhere. It's right here in the Northeast Ohio area.
It is indeed.
Tell us all about it, Connie.
Well,
Casey.
whoever I am, yes.
Yeah.
I was looking for an idea for a new series, and this was, I don't know, maybe a year ago, maybe a little more than a year ago, and talking to my agent about it. And gee, what haven't I done? What would be fun to do? What's different? And readers love books about books. I think you'll agree with that. You've probably met readers 1,000 times who like books about books. Excuse me. So as far as mysteries go, you'll find mystery series about libraries, about mystery bookstores, about antique bookstores, about used bookstores. It goes on and on and on and on and on. And so as my agent and I were bashing this around, we kind of went, wait a minute, what about a romance bookstore? And this actually makes sense in my crazy writing life, because I actually started off my publishing career writing historical romance. So we came up with the idea of a romance bookstore, and the rest is history. That's where Death of a Red Hot Rancher came from.
You're really building on your past experience then as a romance writer. And your mystery series usually have a little touch of romance in them too,
Yes,
or a
sure.
developing romance. But what really fascinated me about the book was the fact that you pick up all these little local interest items, whatever, and use them to create a fictional town. In this case, the town of Tinker's Creek. Now, there is a Tinker's Creek, but it's not where your Tinker's Creek town is set. There is a canal. And
people in Northeast Ohio will basically recognize my fictional Tinker's Creek as Peninsula, and a few other small towns kind of combined and thrown in there. We've got the canal, we've got the national park, we've got this charming little tourist town. So all that is Peninsula. And of course, if you use something too genuine, it could be boring. So this way you get to throw all these fictional other fun things into it when you're making up your town. So that's how Tinker's Creek came about. Again, as you mentioned, little bits of romance in mystery, and you'll see that in a lot of what we call cozy mysteries. But another thing cozy mystery readers really like is a small town because they like to get to know the people in the town. So aside from the heroine and a possible love interest, if you have one, readers want to get to know the heroine's family. They want to get to know the cupcake baker down the street. They want to know the cops at the police station. So when you create one of these towns, you get to bring in all these characters that readers will come to know as they go through the series.
Well, you bring in a character in this series that anyone, well, maybe not anyone, but many people from our area, particularly the Wadsworth, Medina area, would recognize as, oh yeah, that's true. But to many readers would not be. They'd say, oh, come on, you've got to be kidding. And that's the idea of having a bison ranch in the area.
Sure, why not? I mean, I'm no expert on bison, but my understanding is they can be raised in this area. So my red hot rancher is a bison rancher. And I have to tell you the name of the book, I don't know, I can't see me on screen very well. I can only see Irma. So I think I'm showing the book well.
You
here.
are.
My book is Death of a Red Hot Rancher because it's a mystery. But one of my good friends writes for Harlequin Desire, and she wrote a book called Red Hot Rancher. So when we were coming up with my title, we played with her title, and that's how we got Red Hot Rancher. And then, of course, is what's he a rancher of? And that's where the bison came in.
Well, you know, there used to be a herd of bison just south of Wadsworth, right down at Rittman Orchards. And I remember going there years ago and saying, oh my gosh, are those really bison? And yes, they definitely were.
They are incredible beasts. They're huge.
Definitely, they are huge. Well, what do you see for the series?
Pardon me,
where's it going from here? I mean, well, obviously from the title.
It's going all over the place. Obviously, like I said, Death of a Red Hot Rancher. This first book plays with that romance concept. Ranchers are huge. Ranchers and cowboys, big in romance stories. You know, that old West sort of thing is very popular in romances. So I got to play with that whole romance trope of the rancher. The hottest guy in town, has all the girlfriends, everybody's swooning over him, has never found the love of his life. These are all very, romance readers would recognize this instantly. So where is the series going? My idea is to keep playing with these fun tropes. The second book in the series will be out next summer, and it's called Murder of a Mail Order Bride. Because again, romances, especially historical Western romances, mail order brides are a big thing. So again, a romance reader is going to recognize that trope right away. And I'm having a lot of fun playing with that.
These aren't historical, though. These are contemporary.
Oh, yes, these are contemporary. They're set in the modern world in good old Tinker's Creek, yes.
I love Peninsula, so it's so nice to know that that's kind of the setting.
It's the basis. We'll say it's the basis for my town.
Yeah, fiction is fiction.
Yeah.
Do you get that a lot? Do people come up to you and say, oh, how could you do that? That street is not there, or?
Oh, yes, sure. And the other thing people always ask is, oh, are your characters based on real people? Do you just take real people and plop them down in your book? And my standard answer to that is, if you did, books would be very boring, because I don't think any of us is all that interesting, you know? So what you do with people, with characters in books, is pretty much what I did with Tinker's Creek. You take a little of this, you take a little of that, you combine it, you take one person's looks, another person's love of bologna sandwiches, somebody else who hates brownies, and you mix all that together and you create characters that way. And it's the same thing with a town. Like I said, I've got the canal, I've got the national park, but then there are plenty of other things that you don't see in Peninsula that I have thrown in there as story, because the story needs it and to keep things interesting.
So Tinker's Creek, we can really enjoy Tinker's Creek as its own town.
That's right.
It is.
That's
It may
right.
be fiction, but it's fiction that has a reality of its own.
It does indeed.
Well, you know, it's been a while since we've had you on the show, thanks to that pandemic that has been doing things, but you have been extremely busy. The new series, by the way, the main character in that is someone called Lizzie Hale.
Lizzie Hale, yes.
But she's not the only new character that you've created in the past couple years.
Mhm.
You've also created a series that takes place in Akron.
Well, it's called Portage Path in the book. Again, I've taken a real place, I've given it this fictional spin, and the town in the book is called Portage Path, Ohio. And I don't know if you have a copy of the book, Irma, they're on your side. I do. Oh, you've got the second book in the series. The first book was called Haunted Homicide. Irma's showing the second one was called Phantoms and Felonies. And this series, the heroine's name is Avery Morgan. Avery has been hired to be the business manager of a very snooty old woman's club housed in an old mansion in Portage Path, Ohio. And the trick with this women's club is down in the basement is an old speakeasy that was used back in Prohibition days. And the speakeasy has a ghost in it. So this one's got, talk about fictional twists. We are not only in a made up town of Portage Path, but we've got a ghost in this story, which adds kind of a fun twist to it.
Yeah, that ghost is Clemmy, and she is just a delight.
Yeah, she's from the 20s. She was supposed to be a singer in the speakeasy, but she was killed and now she's back haunting the place. So that's kind of fun.
Now, there are 3 books in that series. Is that two books? Oh,
yes, right now 2.
Okay, will there be a third?
I don't know yet. I would like there to be, because I have an idea, but we'll see. We'll see.
I know the publishing business right now is really very, what do I want to say, unstable maybe?
Everything's up in the air. Yes, it sure is. So it's kind of a day-to-day thing. And like I said, I would like to do another one. I've got an idea because I don't think Clemmy died the way she thinks she died. So there may be an investigation we need to do there. So we'll see. We'll see.
Well, I hope there is, because I'd certainly like to get back together with Avery and with Clemmy and the whole area. Again, you've taken a part of our Northeast Ohio scene and massaged it, finessed it, made it into something new, but still with these little bits of familiarity to people who know this area. But at the same time, still very appealing to people who have never been to the area.
Sure, you don't have to be from Akron. There is an Akron Women's City Club that is housed in an old mansion in Akron. And they do have a speakeasy in the basement. And when I spoke there once about my books, that's where I got the idea about this. No one told me they have a ghost in their speakeasy, so I added that. But an old mansion with the speakeasy in the basement was too good to pass up as far as an idea for a book series.
Especially that now it's a women's club instead of the mansion of, a high flyer of the 1920s.
Right, right.
Well, in addition to the Lizzie Hale romance bookstore series, and the Akron Women's Club series, you also have a very interesting series that has already 3 books in it, and that is the Jazz Ramsey series that takes place on the west side of Cleveland, and that in what people around here are familiar with as the Tremont area. And that one also, you just have this knack of using little bits and pieces and bringing them together into a new identity. So this one, though, it's a little more on, maybe a little more on the serious side, even though
Yes.
it's light and has
Yes.
humor in it, but
Yeah.
it has to do with cadaver dogs. And what is your association with cadaver dogs? And really, what are they?
Cadaver dogs are dogs that are trained to find bodies. That's all they're trained to find. Most groups that do this, there's a divide between search and rescue dogs and cadaver dogs. Some groups overlap, but most do not. So a lot of us know search and rescue dogs. We've seen that a lot lately with hurricanes and such. Dogs that go out and find injured people, people who've had heart attacks, people who are in trouble, people buried under buildings after an earthquake. That's a search and rescue dog. They are searching for live people. A cadaver dog only searches for the dead, and they are trained to very specifically only to search out the smell of decomposing humans. So again, I don't know for sure, in that building collapse in Florida recently, after they determined they weren't going to find any more live victims, I don't know if they brought cadaver dogs in, but that's the kind of case where they might. You know, there are no more live people. You bring the dogs in to find the dead. And my heroine in that book, as you mentioned, is Jazz Ramsey. The first book in the series is The Scent of Murder. There have been 3 so far in that series. Jazz trains and handles cadaver dogs. And I have been on trainings with cadaver dog handlers. They are fascinating. The dogs are amazing. They are incredible. And the people who train and handle them are incredible. They are devoted. They are all volunteers. I think maybe Los Angeles and New York have police departments big enough to actually have cadaver dogs on staff, but every place else doesn't. You know, you don't use them that often, so they're not around. So these are volunteer groups that work with law enforcement to find bodies. And these people are so devoted and they're just so into what they do. The group I was training with trains every Sunday. We actually got to train in an abandoned amusement park, which was its own kind of wonderful experience. Dogs or no dogs, that would have been fun. And they do work with parts of real bodies that have been donated to science. And those are hidden around, and that's how the dogs learn. The way the dogs are trained, it's a game. It's a game. When you're first training, at least I'm sure everybody trains differently, but the ones I've seen, when you're first training, you've got something like a tennis ball, and it's kept in a box with, let's say, a piece of a thumb. And the tennis ball picks up the scent of that thumb because it's locked in a box together. So when you're first training a dog, you throw the ball. The dog brings the ball back. You throw the ball, the dog brings the ball back. The dog learns that that scent means playtime. And that's what this is to them. They go out and find what they're looking for. They get a reward. They get a toy to play with. Everybody in the training group congratulates them and gives them pats on the head and tells them what good dogs they are. So it's just really interesting. They go out in all kinds of weather, rain, snow, hot, sleet, whatever, because the scent of decomposition changes according to weather. So they have to learn to be able to detect in all different weathers. There have been cadaver dogs that have found bodies buried under 30 feet of soil, and they find them.
They can actually scent that far down?
They can. There are cadaver dogs that are specially trained to do water finds, where when the scent comes up through water, let's go to Lake Erie. Let's pretend we're on Lake Erie. They can find it. I read a story recently, I believe it was in Canada, and it was a few years ago, where someone disappeared, a boater, I guess it was, a fisherman. And the police spent a week trying to find this body and never did. They had a dog in a boat for 15 minutes and the dog knew exactly where they should look for the body. So it really is incredible. Dogs are great. They're using cadaver dogs now in Roman ruins to find burials. So they are finding burials that are thousands of years old.
And there is still a scent?
There is still a scent. There is scent in bone. There is scent in teeth. So anything that's left, they can find it.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's incredible. That is just
really
absolutely mind-boggling.
And that's why I ended up writing this series, because I heard a speaker talk about cadaver dogs once in a dog group we belong to, not cadaver dogs. And I just couldn't resist. It was just too fascinating. And there have been 3 books in that series so far, The Scent of Murder. And then the second one was called The Secret of Bones. That was out last year. And then just recently, the 3rd book is called A Trail of Lies.
Now, we've talked about the fact it's cadaver dog, but that's not the main job of your character.
No, she works at a school. She works at an all-girls school. She's the administrative assistant to the principal. And that adds some, I don't want to say levity, because it's not like funny things happen at school, but it's a nice change from being out looking for dead bodies, which is obviously very serious work. So you get to see a different side of her as she works with the girls. Sometimes, as in the 2nd book, The Secret of Bones, the mystery is connected to the school. So sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But it's nice to show that she has another life besides just working with the dogs.
One thing that, or rather another thing that I've noticed with your books is the character development. So I find that it's not just the main character that really has a lot of personality and individuality, but also the continuing characters that support the main character. I'm thinking particularly of the principal of the school. I
like her a lot.
She's a real hoot.
Yeah, Sister Eileen. I've gotten a lot of emails from readers who really like Sister Eileen, and I like her too. We've all known nuns in our lives, and some of us who are older have known the old stodgy ones. But these days, these are pretty together women, and Sister Eileen is one of them. She's smart, she's savvy, she's willing to pitch in when it comes to investigations. I like her a lot. She's a smart one.
And it seems like she's willing to bend the rules a little now and then for what's needed to be done.
Yes.
Well, also, I noticed that in, you've talked very, very personally about dogs, the cadaver dogs, but you yourself are a dog person.
I am a dog person, and I can prove it because there's my Elliot on the cover of The Secret of Bones. And when they were doing, in the 1st book, Jazz is with someone else's dog. She's training a German Shepherd. But at the end of that book, she gets an Airedale puppy named Wally. And so in books 2 and 3, she's turning Wally into a cadaver dog. So I sent my publisher a whole lot of pictures of my own Airedale, whose name is Elliot Ness. So that's basically him on the cover. It's like Tinker's Creek. Him and probably some other Airedales all went together to make up the Wally on the cover. And people have been very taken by Wally. They like Wally. Wally's a good kid.
There's a dog also in your newest book, Death of a Red Hot Rancher.
Yes, and there she is on the cover. Her name is Violet in the book. When I was writing the book, I described her as just as she's seen here, big, shaggy, white, sheds like mad. That was our Lucy. We had Lucy at the time. We do not have her anymore, unfortunately, but she has been immortalized on the cover of the book and also on the back. And I'm hoping she's on the cover of book number 2. She would like that.
Well, does that tie in then? Because you wrote that book under the pen name Lucy Ness. Is that
Yes,
where the connection
that's
is?
where Lucy Ness came from. One was our dog Lucy and the other was Elliot Ness. So that's where the pen name came from. I have gone to the dogs, yes. Officially.
Well, definitely your love of dogs comes through, which in the mystery field is, it's not unusual, but the immediate animal connection that people make with light mysteries, particularly, or traditional mysteries, let's call it that, is a cat.
Yes, yes. I've never been a cat person. I have nothing against them. My husband is allergic, violently allergic to cats. So I can't say much about cats because we have never had one. I did write a series a few years ago called The League of Literary Ladies. I wrote that under the Kylie Logan name. And there was a cat named Jerry Garcia in that book, but he did not belong to my heroine. He was a neighbor cat. So I could get away with that. I didn't have to know cats. And Jerry was a bad cat. Jerry just came over and did bad things. So, but again, I have nothing against cats. I just have never had one.
They are very different from dogs.
Yes,
Let's just
yes.
put it that way.
I think
I'm a
I'll
cat
just stick with
person,
dogs.
so- but cats and dogs, maybe animals in general, do add something to a mystery series. Is it the levity or?
Well, yes, I think it can be like Jerry Garcia, coming over and doing bad things. But I think it goes back to what we said about Jazz and her work with cadaver dogs and her work at the school. It gives the readers another view of characters because they're not just investigating a crime or they're not just doing whatever their job is. They're not just cupcake bakers. Now they're interacting with this critter and we're seeing a different side of their personality. And a lot of times they will use the critter. I know I did in Death of a Red Hot Rancher. Lizzie will talk to Violet. Lizzie will say to Violet, I talked to that suspect and here's what he told me and I'm not believing it, So it's another sounding board for the heroine. They don't usually talk back though. I think in some books they do, don't they? In my books, the dogs do not talk back.
Now, there are a number of mystery series that have paranormal animals in them.
Yeah, no, these are regular animals.
Your animals are animals.
They're
that
just
we have in
animals.
our own homes.
They're
Well, we
just
are getting very close to the end of our time. Is there anything that you want to add? Anything that you'd like to share with us?
Well, what I meant to do, and I forgot to do it, is invite everybody over to my website. I was going to print it out and hold it up, and I forgot. Sorry, folks. My website is mystery-book-series.com, mysterybookseries.com, and there's a dash between. Although I have a feeling if you Google Kylie Logan or Mimi Granger, that will come up. But all my names are on there. All my books. My first book was published in 1992, and I've published more than 60 since then. So all the titles are on there. All the covers are on there. So if you're interested to see all these different me's, all the names, that's on there too. I will also announce, although it'll be a while till we talk about it, Irma, that in early 23, I believe, I will be starting a historical mystery series. So that's a whole different thing we can talk about.
Oh, we'll definitely have you back. And